Hey guys, what's up? You're here again with another tutorial. This part of the tutorial was supposed to be me re-recording the tutorial, but the option for that was not an option because I had no time to redo the tutorial, and I also think again that since my system is not up to the standard, I will just do a voiceover on the tutorial that I did. So let's get to it. So here guys, the first thing you want to do is to get a reference image, of course, and then put it in Blender. The next thing is I use the circle to do that, and then you just shift A, throw in the circle there. I didn't worry about the number of vertices and whatever. I just scale it down to the size of the bottle that you want to model. Of course, you're using a reference image, and then I start extruding it up and then scale it to the size again, and then you keep extruding and scaling based on the shape that you're trying to make. So with this, because it was a circle, the bottom is not closed, but then I keep extruding and moving it to the direction that I want to. Now I extrude it up and scale it again, and do the same thing again. Scale it to extrude it and go up on the z-axis, and then extrude again, bring it up, and then scale it inward. You just gonna follow the shape of the bottle up until you get the bottle's shape right, and it's as easy as that. I mean, like, the reason for the reference image is to go with it until you get the shape of the bottle to be the way you want it to be. And then I got it to the part where the bottle might be ending, and when you get to that point, you can just shift D, duplicate the okay, I did the extrude again and went up a little bit to create the bottle, the part where where the lid is going to screw around on the bottle. I don't know what you call that part, of the ring. So I do that just so that the reference image can match, and then at the bottom you just alt click on the at the bottom you just alt click on the edge select with alt, and then it will select everything, and then you scale it in, and then you just hit F afterwards to close the to close. It's F for fill, so it will fill it with one face there. And because it's a bottle, at the bottom of the bottle, it doesn't matter how you did it. And then you add the subdivision surface. I added the subdivision surface modifier on the bottle and increase the level of viewport to 2 and the render to 2, and then you go to object shade smooth, so you get it smoothed out. And then now I went again to select the bottle, and let's see what was the next step. And then as you zoom in, just to see how the edge of the bottle is going to look like, and then you go alt click again on the edge select, and then shift D to duplicate the vertices, and then P, you choose selection, you separate that edge that you selected by selection. So now you have two objects, and then you go to the top one, the one that you just duplicated, and go to edit mode and extrude up. And now this part of the bottle, it's where your threads, I don't know what you call those things, I think they are threads. So you want to model the threads of the bottle. That's where you almost like screw it when you it's more like a screw where you close the bottle. And then in order to do that, normally if you're going to view it from far, you won't see if they are exactly the same. What I've noticed is that sometimes we depending on what you want to do with the bottle, if you're just creating it for you and for the render, you don't necessarily have to do everything exact, like try to make those screws. You could use the screw modifier to create them so that they go all the way around on the bottle, but on the lid, and then you keep extruding, and we go to F. But you extrude it in, scale it in, and then F to close it. Yeah. And then what I was trying to explain is that that part of the and then you shade it smooth again. Sorry guys, let me just go with the tutorial first before I start explaining how you do those. Then after that you can just delete you don't need the reference anymore. Now that the shape is almost the way you want it, I think you don't need the reference image. You can delete it as soon as you are done with it. It's basically for the shape, not for the size, because as you can see I didn't do the shape exactly. So now you're gonna go and change your render viewport to cycles. Don't forget to do that, and then you save it, because otherwise you might lose your work. Blender sometimes has the habit of crashing, so you rename it to whatever you want to name it, and then you have to save it, so that even if Blender crashes, you are covered. Then you go to material, and then I just you normally have the default material, which is that one there. You just rename it to whatever you want. For me it could be let's see, I said a lead, I think, because the lead was selected. So you can just do that, and I have to split the workspace into two, where I'm going to do the what you call it, where you then I hide the widget on one side to clean it up, so that you can just focus on that, and then I can take it to the rendered viewport. And on the other side you can still hide the widgets, because now you are only going to work with what you call, you're going to work with materials, so you're not going to be modeling anything, so you don't need those widgets. So I just keep shaping you're creating the workspace the way you want, and then Shift A, I added the principles BSDF on the object that was selected, which is the lead at the moment. And then you just go into actually just make metallic. I think I did it like that for the lead, and then you can change the viewport to rendered, so that you can see the colors. And yeah, so I think when it comes to materials, just know what part of that shader does what, and then you can just decide on what material you are looking to create, because there is no specific way or color or how the lead should look at any point. Some can be a plastic, some can be a little bit of almost in the metal side. I don't know what to call that, but yeah, you can have the leads in different forms and materials, made out of different materials. So that's why it doesn't really matter what you make your lead to be. And then Shift A, I threw in the plane to create the surface where, or the light actually, because of when you go to render you cannot see them at the bottle, because of the world has no light, and I did not use the HDR, so I created the light. And then you add the material, you remove the principal BSDF as it's the default. You can just delete that, and Shift A, you add input shader, emission shader, yeah, and then you connect the surface, and then you increase the emission to whatever, the strength to whatever you want. And then now you can see that you start to see how the light interacts with your object on the scene. So the bottle is white, it's pure white. The material that you get there by default would be white, or there's no material actually, it comes there white by default, yes. And then you can just change the material, and then now you name it to whatever you want. I won't make it a milk, I think I did at last first, because it's the outside of the bottle. And then you can just start tweaking the material to whatever it is. You go to your what you call it, transmission, you put it all the way to 1, and then it becomes transparent. And then you have to change the base color to pure white, because otherwise it will not be as transparent as you want it to be. And then the you will keep going, roughness pretty much low to about 0.41 0.041 for me. It doesn't really matter, but what you think works for you should be what you make your materials look like. In most cases, you can just try to, if you are going for realism on the scene and you want it to be almost 100% the way it should be, which you can never get it right in renders, just do approximate it. And if you are happy with it, of course, when you render it, you can just render it and let the other people have their feedback on what it is, and use that up until you think, if they get a feedback. And sometimes you just have to go with what you think works for you. And then on the flat plane that was used for the floor, I just went to edit mode, selected an edge at the back, and extruded it up. And then I added subdivision surface, I think. And and then you just go to the light again. You have to remove the light from the viewport. You just position it the way you want it, and then even the strength of the light, as you work on your scene, you keep changing and adjusting stuff. So I realized that the thickness of the glass was too much there, and I tried to reduce it as well. Then the emission shader, you just decrease the strength of the light that you added on the emission shader that you added on the scene. And then you look at the bottle. If you look at it, it's pretty thick. So I think when I added, after adding the subdivision surface, I added also the solidify modifier. So you have to reduce that or remove it altogether. It depends on what size you want the bottle, how thick you want the bottle to be, and then you keep tweaking it to your liking. That's pretty much how you create the materials in Blender. You have to know, learn the principal BSDF and all the settings on it, because it's the most used shader in Blender. So you use that for pretty much everything. So if you know how it works, you can keep changing your settings to what you think works. And here I wanted to rework on some modeling, and I think the lid, or even the bottle, or to create the milk inside of the bottle. So I bring back all the widgets so that I can work on that. And I was trying to find everything that I needed to work on there. So we go to edit mode again, and so I was hiding the subdivision surface, like disabling it or removing it altogether, so that you can I removed the wrong one. I removed the subdivision instead of solidify. So you just reduce the solidify to the level where you want it, and and you add the subdivision surface. You can't remove it because it's gonna be blocky. It's gonna look like it's not like it's a bottle. Don't be as smooth here. So I added the subdivision surface and bring it again to level 2 and move it up, probably on top of the solidify. So I was supposed to just make less of the solidify. So you select the lid again, because it looks smaller if you look at it. So I scale it up so that it can fit the bottle. The lid. And I went back to the bottle and tried to reduce. I deleted the solidify altogether. Now the bottle is, I don't know what I was doing here, guys. I remove it and I add it, and so I wanted to create the milk inside the bottle. So you select the bottom edges, and then when you hit Control Plus, it will add up until where you want the milk to start. It will go edge by edge up until where you want the milk to start. So once you selected that, you can Shift D, duplicate it, and then P, separate by selection. Now you have two objects there, but they are both still having the same glass material. So you want to hide the bottle and be left with the milk. So select the top edge, extrude it, scale it in, and you can hit you grab it down to I just grab it and move it down a little bit, and then F to fill it out with so you have now milk, and but the material is still glass, so it will look like water instead. So you just have to select the glass and scale it a little bit to be smaller and go inside of the bottle. Then you will remove the settings. Now you can delete, actually not on the glass but on the you duplicate the material so that when you delete it, it doesn't disappear from both. And let's have a look. I think I was adding the solidify again and making it a little bit bigger again. Yeah, because of I removed the solidify and the bottle looked pretty small. So now you see that it's like ice inside of that glass. So I have to remove the material on the milk. Let's have a look. I'm going to go to the materials and see, and go to object, yeah, on the wireframe, selected the inward the object inside the glass, and add a new material, and now you can name it milk. That's what it is. And it's gonna be, by default it's gonna be white, so I think I reduce the roughness as well to allow it to be slightly shiny, and slight transmission, I think, in order for it to be slightly transparent, not completely. I don't know, there might be a better way to do that, and using other shaders to allow light to pass through the glass, so that it's not a blocky white thing inside of there, but something that shows that you can slightly see through the glass. Yeah. And then shift A, I think I added a shader again, translucent, yeah, to allow some light to go through into the material, and I left it wide as it is. Yeah, so that's normally what I did. I think that's pretty much all I did for the milk. And when you're done doing that, you can actually go into Photoshop or Illustrator or whatever other software where you're going to create the label that you're going to place on the outside of the glass as the milk label. I think I did that, and you keep saving your work so that you don't lose it afterwards. Yeah. Then I shift A at the camera, and you are doing the composition now, how you want the scene to look like, and then you just move the camera to where you think you want it to be. So you can just go back, Control Alt 0 will place the camera on where you are, and then you can just keep tweaking the scene. As you can see now, I'm selecting the light and I'm moving it outward so that it doesn't cast that shadow on the scene. And then when you're done with that, you can duplicate the light and just rotate it so that it can face the other way, because and when it comes to lighting up your scene, that's also what I can call a personal preference. You can light the scene the way you want. I mean, it doesn't matter. If it's for the product, of course, you want to show the product as best as you can. You would do whatever kind of a scene the way you would in photo shoot if you're doing that. But if it's for you, and it depends on what you want to do with the scene, you can just put your lights the way you want. And then I added a spotlight on top of that, and then I crop it. I put a spotlight, and then you can just shape it, add the brightness up until the light works for your scene. This stuff, guys, is not really for me. I never fuss about stuff like this. I really never. I think you can fuss a lot about how you want your final product to be if that product is for a client. But if it's for you, just do it the way you want, really. And I think the render settings, you can change them again into whatever you want, so that the quality of your photo can be the way you want. And then I ticked on the denoiser. As you can see, the scene becomes pretty smooth after that. And sometimes they say that adding denoiser will of course increase your render time. And then the camera also, I changed the shape of the camera. Instead of 1920 by 1080, you can just say 1080 by 1920, so that it's horizontal instead of vertical. Yeah. So as I said, my PC is pretty slow, so that is why you see me not re-recording the tutorial. So it was rendering pretty slow. Yeah, I was supposed to just I will speed ramp this render. And then the label, guys, it's what let's say you're creating a product like this for a client. The render is going to become the label is going to be what the client showed you. So you can do it in Photoshop so that it can fit on what you're going to do on the final results. But really, it's just what you have designed in Photoshop. If you want me to show you how I designed mine in Photoshop, let me know in the comments down below, so that I can show you my process sometimes on how to create those type of a product. So guys, cheers. I think this is all that this tutorial should have. I'm not gonna go too long with it, so you will see the final render. Cheers guys, see you in the next one.